we're kind of in the middle of the day with just the film review and team meeting. Just haven't been finished. I said yesterday, first off, there's a lot of things on film that we still need to work to clean up and improve upon. I thought we played better in the second half, especially the fourth quarter. We got the stops we needed. I thought the red zone efficiency numbers were important in this win. I thought defensively we were able to hold them to the field goals, and it really was kind of the tale of two halves, just in regards to the style of the game. But it was an important win to get, and we kind of get on to the correction phase of our preparation and then getting ready for Houston. So that being said, any questions?
Sean, you take the ball over at the 7-yard line, your worst field position of the day, and then you're in the end zone 93 yards later, 8 plays, minute 31. How much of that was Drew calling plays at the line of scrimmage? I mean, did you totally turn it over to him, or how much?
Yeah, we actually got into the series before kind of this no-huddle, empty package of plays. And, we kind of go in each week with a certain type of empty formation, if you will, with a certain type of personnel. But when we got into that package, the series prior, Drew's handling the protection and handling the routes. And periodically, I'm able to get in his ear about a play maybe that we want to run, and it's kind of back and forth. But that was all him in a no-huddle fashion, only we were in empty as opposed to a one-back, 3-receiver set. And it really shifted when that happened. He got red hot. He was outstanding, really, and had the protections going the right way. They pressured us a couple times. He picked it up, and the line picked it up with when you get into those wide-open sets, it's a little harder to disguise who's coming. But you still have to block him, and then he did a great job of getting the ball in the hands of guys that were making plays. And you saw Jimmy Graham, you saw Lance Moore quite a bit, Darren Sproles, Robert Meacham on the outcut. Those are all guys that are working individual routes within the call he's making. So at that point, earlier in the fourth quarter, we got into that package, and that was him at the line of scrimmage doing all of it.
You brought up the line. How did De La Puente and Brown come in a pinch? How did they?
I thought what was most encouraging, and I said this just a few minutes ago in the team meeting, is oftentimes you get into a game and a player has to step up. We had a lot of guys that had to step up into roles maybe they didn't get reps at. It impacts your offense and your defense, but if you really look closer, it impacts your special teams more than anything. And all of a sudden, we're having to use someone else. Olin Kreutz came back into play, the wing on field goal, and then, and so dealing with that is always challenging, especially in the kicking game. But when you look at De La Puente and Charles Brown, and you look at the snaps defensively that guys at linebacker had to get, that was encouraging. And to go in and function, but to go in and function and play well to win was most encouraging.
Do you feel good if you've got to use Charles Brown for an extended period? I know you don't want to talk about Street, but do you feel good about Charles Brown?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why he's up for the games. And so listen, we'll handle Wednesday the injury report. I don't really want to talk about any of these guys until Wednesday, but. If a guy's dressed, and that sounds like a big list, but it's not. It's 46, and so those guys, we say it have to be ready to function, and they did.
What's your minimum, Sean, that you want to have dressed of offensive linemen going into a game?
You would never go less than 7 and never go north of 8. If you took 32 teams and said, hey, what do they dress? It's probably split. I mean, you'd be somewhere in the middle. I would say maybe a little bit more 7, some teams 8. We've had 8, we've had 7, but you would never go south or north of those two numbers.
When you talk about the next guy, like the receivers, your offense uses lots of different targets, and those guys are all running the routes all the time, so they can step up. But what about a guy like De La Puente who's not getting reps on the snap with threes, or an offensive lineman who maybe isn't in the protection?
It's a little bit more of a transition. You're right. Those are positions no different than the quarterback. There's a handful of positions that, when we read the grades each week, the first thing I ask the coach is how many plays, and typically, you go through the O-line and the quarterback, and that play total's the same, 72, 68, 77, and then when you get to everyone else, the tight ends, the receivers, the running backs, the fullbacks, that goes anywhere from 15 to 40 to, but the 5 linemen and the quarterback typically get every offensive snap, so it is different.
Sean, after you get to the 13 and Ingram takes it in, I'm sure there was some thought about, well, they could let Ingram score here to have a chance to win the game, but I think they had all 3 timeouts still left.
And we had all ours too. It was a little early. I know what you're saying, but it was a little. There was just a lot of. What was the time left at that point without me?
He scored it with 2:42 left.
2:42. I think we have all of our timeouts. That's an eternity, but. The only thing I can think of that was close to what you're talking about is 06 Philadelphia in the regular season, where we kind of get down, and now there's, I think, 1:20, and we end up taking a knee rather than trying to run plays and then kick the game-winning field goal. At that point, we were trying to score, and we just recognized that there was still the 2-minute war. There's still 4 clock stoppages along with the time. So. And I'm pretty sure they felt the same way. I mean, I don't think, I know we would never try to allow someone to score with, 2:40 left.
Sean, you talked about, and a lot of players have also talked about how emotional that game was, given the Katrina anniversary, and especially with Steve Gleason. And then you had some injuries. Does it feel a little spent here today? Do you feel like the team needs to recharge, or that it's tired?
Well, it was an emotional weekend. And then, I'm sure a tiring day physically for the players after coming off of a game like that against a good team. And, I was excited that we were able to win that game with him being present and with us and having spoke to the team the night before. But I'm sure there was a wide range of emotions, and his message was outstanding, so, to some degree, I think, maybe a little bit more than normal on Monday, from just a emotional standpoint.
Hey, Sean, a guy like Brian De La Puente kind of bounced around practice squads and stuff. What did you all see in him to bring him on board?
I think number one, he's smart. He's got good short area quickness. He's a good athlete. And I would say during the training camp, when he was getting his snaps, he just seemed to function very well and was very consistent. Then there's that battle heading into the start of the season. Who comes up on game day, De La Puente or Tennant? And he had really done a good enough job to where we felt confident that he could play either the guard or center position. In some years past, that backup player on game day could be a center, and the center goes to guard. In his case, we felt like he'd go in at either spot. But so the 2 backup players, when you have 7, one has to handle the tackle, the other has to be able to handle an injury to any one of the interior 3. But he was someone that was very consistent and more powerful than maybe you'd look at or notice if you just stared at his stature.
Is he an example of a guy you all preach all the time about? The best players are going to play.
Absolutely.
Is he one of those?
That'd be a great example. All right, thanks.